Manchester City are one game away from winning the Premier League title for a fourth time in a row after beating Tottenham by 2-0. And I saw a lot of people before the game saying about how Tottenham would give up the game so that Arsenal could not win. And to be honest with you, after watching the game, that couldn't be farther from the truth. The fact of the matter is that Tottenham gave it a really good go. Opportunities from Phil Foden earlier on in the game were saved by Vicario in spectacular fashion, I might add. I mean, look at that save and look at the proximity that Phil Foden is to Vicario. It should be a certain goal, but the goalkeeper keeps it out, and that is credit to the determination that both he and his Tottenham side have. There was another moment as well where Kevin De Bruyne was almost on the half turn, swivels and then spins to try and shoot at goal. Again, Vicario matched the effort, and Spurs for the most part were really good in the game, having a high intensity, making sure they were able to break the lines, and oftentimes causing Manchester City a lot of problems. The approach from Tottenham was actually quite different. The lack of availability of certain players really did tie Ange Postecoglou's hands, but for the most part they actually did create some opportunities. A dual pivot striker role of Heung-min Son and Brennan Johnson really did lead the line quite well, allowing for a four-man close-knit midfield of Maddison, Sarr, Bentancur and Højbjerg, making sure they were really close and compact, stopping Manchester City from playing through the middle. Mickey van der Ven out at left back was an interesting choice to try and combat Kyle Walker, but it was actually the narrowness of their play which I found so interesting. In the end, it turned out that Manchester City ended up going down the flanks, and they really did penetrate quite a lot of times through that. But it was a different approach and a refreshing reminder that Ange Postecoglou does have different things in his locker. But of course, we need to talk about the goal. Phil Foden going down this left-hand side, beating a couple of Spurs players in what can only be described as interesting challenges. Romero is always a very front-on, head-on kind of player, but he almost winced out of a challenge against Foden. And then you've got Bentancur being beaten for pace, being beaten for strength. You're then asking, can Phil Foden cross the ball in early enough to the likes of Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne? And he does that, but it just doesn't have the quality on it. It ends up going behind both of the players and then recycled by Bernardo Silva, who then watches for a late run from Kevin De Bruyne just behind the backside of Mickey van der Ven. Now what needs to happen here is Højbjerg sees this challenge, or this run I should say, move in behind van der Ven. He needs to make sure that he's tight onto that, making sure that he's closing down that space. If not, Dragozin also needs to then cover across. They don't do that, and instead De Bruyne almost gets something of a free run in. It's a great chance that's worked by De Bruyne, who knows that Erling Haaland will be in that post, the channel of uncertainty, the area of danger. And I've got to say that I really wasn't impressed by the marking of Pedro Porro here. Haaland does a fantastic job of running towards this corridor, this area of uncertainty, but really it's Porro for me that needs to do a little bit more. He has the pace. Just try and get across Erling Haaland a little bit better. He fails to do so, and in the end Spurs are punished for that. Let's just take another look and another angle at this particular piece of movement. Kevin De Bruyne here makes a brilliant movement in that channel. We know the way that Manchester City play, utilising those inside channels between fullback and centre-back, and that's exactly what happens here. One centre-back, one fullback. You've got the left-back here, you've got the centre-back here, and then Kevin De Bruyne is just making that run in between the two of them. Højbjerg needs to do a lot more for me. It's a brilliantly weighted pass from Bernardo Silva. Kevin De Bruyne is onside, and of course he plays that channel, that pass through into this area, making sure that he knows that Erling Haaland will be there when he plays that pass. Brilliantly worked, brilliantly weighted, and of course it's a goal. The stats are a perfect example on why Tottenham did not give up this game. 53% ball possession against Manchester City is no mean feat. The same amount of shots on target as they had, even though Man City had 2 goals, they had a higher XG, but Tottenham really did give it a good go, and we can see from the big chances here that they really did give it a good go. They missed 4 big chances, but you can't really have a go at them for not being too clinical. They were big chances, but again, you also need to give credit to the goalkeeper, and we need to take a look at this stat right here, the goals prevented stat. Now, this highlights how effective a goalkeeper is at stopping the opposition from going forwards and scoring a goal. As you can see, Tottenham have 0.59. Vicario made some decent saves and he managed to keep some shots out. But look at Manchester City's for Ortega and Edison. 2.09 goals, essentially preventing 2 goals from going in the net. That is massive. That is a huge difference. That's arguably a difference between the game being 2-0 Man City or 2-2. Tottenham really did give this a good go, and I was actually really impressed with the way that they played. They were dynamic, they were forward thinking, they were aggressive, and if it wasn't for a couple of moments, I think they actually could have gotten something out of this game. And then there's the moment, or the man of the moment I should say. Not an outfield player, but instead a goalkeeper. Stefan Ortega arguably saving Manchester City, keeping them in this title race with the defining moment I think a lot of people might look back on. Spurs work a brilliant chance, and it's that context that we're going to be looking at to begin with. I want to focus on Spurs because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players ready to converge on the ball right here. This is what Spurs did. They worked it very well. Tight spaces, being aggressive, being energetic. This is what Ange Postecoglou wants from his side. And then you're asking, can Manchester City get out? And in fact, they couldn't. Rodri playing a lax pass, making an opening for Tottenham to play out. Of course, it's a mistake from Akanji. Manchester City looked nervous on several occasions. Akanji not dealing with it well enough. And instead, look at the dynamism from these Tottenham players. Look at this. So you've got Son, you've got Brennan Johnson running on, making sure that they're attacking that space, closing it down, stopping Manchester City from playing out. This was the dynamic. It worked for Ange Postecoglou's side, and in the end, they get a turnover. They manage to get it. Son goes on to it, and then you're wondering, can he finish? But instead, Stefan Ortega steps up. He steps up strong, and he steps up big, and he spreads really wide. He makes sure that he closes as much of the goal as possible, and it's this moment. This is the moment that I think will define how this title race unfolds. It's this moment, Son Heung-min against Stefan Ortega. He spreads himself, making sure that gap is not really there. Instead, Son tries to go for that bottom left-hand corner, right foot down to the bottom left, and Ortega reads it. I think he reads Son's body shape, he sees how he's shaping up, and he makes the save. Just look at this. Look, he almost flies out at him. He's flying across, making sure he's as wide as possible. And then look at that right foot. That right foot right here, which is exactly where the ball goes. It is a fantastic save. An unbelievable save. Look at that. I was watching it with someone and he said, oh, he just shot it at Ortega. I don't see that. I see a goalkeeper who read the body position of a player and managed to make a fantastic save. And it was this save that I think has given Manchester City a proper leg up towards the final day of the title. And now Pep Guardiola is 1 game away from Premier League history. But of course, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How did you find the game, and what do you think is going to happen on the final day? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.